And originally, this was built for remote teams, and a lot of organizations that I've given this to, I've given it to big associations. I've done it with and companies alike that are, making this transition from a little bit remote or not remote at all to full remote, right? Due to COVID and some other things. And so this was all about communication tools and ways you can lead your teams more effectively. Now, with some of you, you may be solopreneurs, you may have contractors, you may have a small team of people, you may be all remote, you may be some remote, but these principles, whether you're remote or not, these principles are going to help you regardless. They're going to help you not only in your career, they're going to help you in life with your friends and your spouses and your children and everything else. So that's kind of the context I don't want you to block me out because you're like, oh, this is a remote presentation and, I don't really have anybody that I work remote with. So I want you to think about these principles as things to just help you be a better communicator across the board with everybody you interact with. Mark, can I get screen sharing permissions here? And how long do I have, Mark? I just want to make sure I respect your time here. Oh, your audio's.
I think I can speak for the group and say if you want to keep talking, we're willing to keep listening.
Oh, good.
So your kids got to get up and take a bathroom break.
Well, yeah, don't take it personally if we do that.
Okay, I've got about 3 hours or so. So I'm just kidding. You're still muted, Mark.
Yeah, we're not hearing Mark at all for some reason.
Is he singing? There he goes. Okay.
No, yeah, I just selected all participants can share. So you should be able to do that now.
All righty, there we go.
And to comment about earlier, we kind of talked about your, remote, and actually it's very, very applicable to us because as solopreneurs, we work from the home. Everybody we work with is remote.
That's right.
Sandy's got people she works with in Europe. I've worked from people in Hawaii, Japan.
Wow. Okay, good.
I work with trying to get somebody to do some shirts for us, and she's in Iowa. Okay. So, and we're trying to focus a little bit more too on people who are just working remote from home, not just those people who own businesses, but we are trying to let them know that, a lot of that, because we have had a couple people that have gone from brick to home business wise, and they say that, and then they've gone back to brick and then work remotely. And they say that many of the principles and the problems and all those kind of things are pretty much the same, whether you actually own your business or you're simply working for a business from home. So
yeah. Okay. Right on. Well, that's beautiful. Good. We'll just proceed, and you can apply this to many different facets of what we're going to talk about here. So let's get rolling. A little bit of my introduction. I've been doing graphic design, brand strategy work for the past almost 19 years now, and have shifted over the past kind of 3 years to doing more internal communication work with companies and leaders and individuals. I speak a lot. I do a lot of teaching at a school here in Atlanta called the Miami Ad School. And I've worked with a lot of different clients, some of these on the board, as you can see in my slide here, and in different capacities. Some of these were design work, some of these were messaging, some of these were strictly brand strategy, some of these were team communication training and development of leaders. So it's kind of a mixed bag there, but I've had some great experiences and learned a lot through my career. If any of you want to get in touch with me in any way, shape, or form and find out some of my free resources and some of the other information, you can visit my website there at skotwaldron.com. You can follow me on Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm there most of the time, so you can link in with me and we can collaborate and share some good stuff together on LinkedIn. First of all, I want to establish what this word means. I've said it a few times already, and most of the time when people think of the word brand, they think about marketing, right? They think about a logo. They think about all those types of things that a company uses to communicate their value to other people. Brand is this, though. It's simply what people say about you when you're not around. That's it. That's what a brand is. So now you can be a brand nerd like I am, and every time somebody uses it incorrectly, you can correct them. But this is what brand is. Now, your logo, your color palette, your fonts, all those other things are what we call brand elements. Those are things that are simply reflections of your brand, or things that help me remember how I feel about your brand. I don't love or hate Chick-fil-A because of their logo. I love or hate Chick-fil-A because of the experiences I have at Chick-fil-A, right? Or if their values align with my values, or the different experiences, right? So a brand is simply that, your reputation. When you read Google reviews, that is in essence that company's brand. When you read Glassdoor reviews, that is in essence that company's brand from the internal perspective of employees rating that. Nobody writes Google reviews on how bad your logo is, right? They write Google reviews based on your experience with that entity. So I want to establish that first. So internal brand is simply what your employees or your contractors are saying about you or the company when you're not around. Are they going home at night or getting off the phone with you going, ugh, if I have to listen to Rob say one more thing, like that guy, he has no idea how to talk to his team, right? Or, oh, Mark is such a drag. He's just like totally drilling me all the time. And, so we've got to understand that reputation exists when you're not around. And that's what your brand in essence is and becomes to other people. Your external brand is simply what your customers or clients are saying about you when you're not around. So they're either saying, oh man, those pancakes are the best, right? Or they're saying those jokes are the worst, right? They're just saying all these different things, okay, about that experience. And that is in essence your brand, your reputation as we go about this. And the reason why this is important is because your brand is going to retain customers or clients, or turn over or retain employees. And what we want to do is retention is important in all aspects, internally and externally. And the way we communicate is going to help us retain the internal audience we go after, our employees, our teams, and our external audience, our clients and our customers. So when COVID happened, it was already too late for a lot of companies to all of a sudden start communicating effectively, okay? The way you communicated the 3 years leading up to COVID with your team is what set you up to either have a good brand experience with your leader or your team, or a bad one. Because the way you treated everybody leading up to COVID had a real impact on that time when COVID actually did happen. And maybe you had to lay off some contractors or lay off some employees or some other things that had to happen. And they either took that well, or they took it horribly because of that reputation, that relationship that they have with you already. Likewise, we had the Black Lives Matter movement and in racial injustice, and a lot of things happened there. And we saw a ton of companies being called out. And this is why your vision and your mission, why I'm so excited, Mark, about you talking about that, and your values are so important, because we can proclaim all we want that we're for this, and this is our vision, and this is where we're going, and this is what we're doing, and this is what we're about. But when it really comes down to it, the way you communicate with that internal audience, the way you communicate with that external audience is going to mean a lot, because those are the people that are going to call you out. Those are the people that are going to say, yeah, you preach that a lot. You preach that whole just racial equity thing, but no, you're not like that. Like I know which I've been there. You haven't treated me well, right? And that is a huge brand problem. When you have things like that happening, that is hard to clean up. And we've seen a lot of companies go through that over the last year. So let's talk about the intersection of these two. We have company culture and employee engagement on one side. We've got customer messaging and customer experience on the other side. And when we put those together, we've got, Glassdoor and Google, like I said before, that is your brand. I talk about internal brand and external brand, but really it's just one cohesive brand. It all starts on the internal though. You got to know yourself on the inside before you can truly be healthy on the outside. All of that external messaging, customer experience is going to come from your company culture, your employee engagement, your internal health. And some of you say, I don't have a culture, it's just me. And I will say, hold on a second. Culture doesn't have to involve 100 people. Culture is one person. Culture is atmosphere. Culture is mindset. Culture is the environment in which you put yourself in order to get work done. And that is what we talk about when we talk about culture. So that's what I want you to think about when you're thinking about that a little bit more. Maya Angelou said this: people may not remember what you did or what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And that is super important, right? I always say this. How many of you can remember all the words of the last movie you went to? Unless it's National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, I can probably bet not any of you, right? But you can remember how you felt. You remember you wanted to see it again, or you didn't want to see it again. And you probably remember that you loved it so much you want to tell everybody else about it, that they should go see it. That is brand, okay? That is that emotion that drives people to want to stay loyal to you as an employee, as a contractor, as a customer. So these are some of the remote working struggles that we deal with. Feeling limited. I just can't do what I want to do. You can't lead everyone the same because everybody's different. Choosing the right medium for communication and learning to manage your time wisely. All right, let's go through those. Why don't you guys throw something in the chat? I'm curious. Which one of these do you struggle with the most? Or we don't have a lot of people on the call. You could just speak up too if you wanted to.
And I'm driving. I can't put it in the chat.
Okay, go for it. Which one?
And eating. Time management. It's interesting. It seems like as this event has gone on and on, my time management skill has gotten worse and worse.
Okay.
Like yesterday, all of a sudden, I was, what is it called when you look at the news? I don't even like news, and I was sitting there for 3 hours just reading news articles that I didn't even like, and
Okay.
it was horrible.
Okay.
I felt bad when I was done, didn't enjoy it, but I seem to find myself doing that more and more.
Okay. All right. Thanks for sharing that, Sheldon. So time management, managing time, can't lead everyone the same. Sandy. Anybody else want to throw anything out there? Those are generally some things we have, especially as home-based businesses, managing time, especially if we have kids at home still. If we're doing digital learning, I know there was a lot of struggles with that, and managing time as well. So
yeah, I think I have some time management struggles and feeling limited by just being one person.
Yeah, for sure. So we're gonna tackle each one of these as we go through. So I'm going to teach you these 4 principles that are going to kind of help combat these different issues. These are the 5 things that I actually measure when I'm working with teams or working with individuals when I'm talking with them. I use quantifiable, data-driven people development. I don't, it's fluffy and it's kind of the soft skill stuff, but I like to measure that. And so when I measure this, I measure it through communication, relationships, alignment, execution, and capacity. And this is what it takes to have effective teams. It's all built on the communication relationship aspect because that's where trust comes in. Then we build on alignment, execution, and capacity. If you want to increase capacity, then start with your trust building first. And then everybody gets more aligned, which creates better execution, which increases your capacity over time. So that's kind of how this flow works in this flywheel. So that's kind of how I measure productivity and effective teams over time. So number one, the first principle I'm going to teach you is about inhibition versus prohibition. And this is all mindset type stuff, right? And this deals with the limitations, feeling limited. And the first tool is this: inhibition versus prohibition. Inhibitions are those limiting beliefs that we place on ourselves. Prohibitions, on the other hand, are limitations enforced upon us. A perfect example is COVID. That was a prohibition, enforced restrictions that we had no control over. Okay. Things were shut down. We were quarantined. Whatever had to happen had to happen. If you owned a restaurant, if you owned some kind of entity, a brick and mortar of some kind, there are limitations put upon you could do nothing about. Okay. Now, the inhibitions, we have to be careful with this. And the way I talk about this is, don't let that prohibition all of a sudden also become an inhibition. Don't let it trickle over into the mindset of, COVID, I guess I'm just going to sit and wait it out, and then I just become a victim of my circumstance. I sit on my hands and it's poor me all the time. A lot of people have had struggles, and what's I'm going to say good about COVID and this whole experience is that the entire world was going through the same thing. You had a lot of people empathizing with each other in some way, shape, or form. There was a lot of forgiveness out there in the world because everybody was dealing with it. Okay. It wasn't just something like that Georgia was dealing with. And the rest of the world's like, what's Georgia crying about? Right. Like we had a snowstorm or something. It's seriously, everybody had that issue. So that's the first thing I want you to think about. Is this thing preventing me, this limiting belief, not being able to get enough done? Is this me and my mindset, or is this really a restriction put upon me? And then once we understand what that is and what that restriction is, we can go into this framework. If it is an outside force, okay, then we start to think about three different criteria. Is it a barrier, a hurdle, or a gap? Barriers are restrictions or regulations that we have to just figure out a way around. Barriers are things we can't do anything about. COVID, right? Shutting down a brick and mortar. Can't do anything about it. We have to find a way around it, something to keep ourselves going. Hurdles, on the other hand, are things that we see that are not quite barriers, but things we just have to think about differently. Can we be a little bit more creative with our service? Can we package it different? Is there a different way to think about this solution so that it still gets to the point of what we do, but it's just not exactly what we sell, but it's close, right? It kind of feeds into it, but it keeps us going. Okay. Gaps are the things that have to be filled before we can move forward. So for example, at a position in our company, right? Maybe it's a legal issue of some kind. That might be a barrier, but it might just be a gap. Like we have to get this permit before we can move forward. That's a gap, something that's keeping us from moving forward that just has to be filled. So then we know what we're doing. Those things can be empowering. Once we identify what it is, we can go, okay, I can't move forward until this thing happens, but at least I know what I have to do to make that thing happen. The power is in my hands, not in somebody else's. And that's what I want you to understand, is that you have a choice, right? You have a choice to, if it is a prohibition, to think about that prohibition in these three different ways that can help you overcome that. All right, principle number 2 is something I want to teach you called the 5 voices. How many of you out there have taken some kind of personality assessment, whether it's DISC or the Enneagram or MBTI and Myers-Briggs, Strength Finders, any of those, right? Y'all taken those before? Too many to mention. Yes, I'll bet. here's, let me ask you this, Mark. What's your experience with those? What have you gotten out of those? And then what's kind of the problem with them in your eyes?
Well, most of them are actually focused at one particular viewpoint from a psychological concept or precept. But I mean, I always learn something from them because it's always good to learn, you know, a little bit more about yourself. So I've, you know, a lot of them are, several have been, you know, point on for part of them, and parts of others are, you know, again, they're standard questions supposedly applied to the entire population. So
do you remember any of your makeups if you took the Myers-Briggs? Or
I took Myers-Briggs. If you name them, I could probably tell you which ones I did.
Okay. Do you remember what your Myers-Briggs makeup was?
No.
Okay.
I was like right in the middle of like 2 or 3 categories.
All right.
So
I can tell you something, Scott.
Let's go for it, Sandy.
Well, I took Myers-Briggs a long, long time ago and was told I was an introvert.
Okay.
And I felt like that really changed how I approached the world and business. And later, when I just said, well, I don't care if I am or not, I have to have a certain number of social skills and muster up the energy, whether I feel like it or not, or I'll never be good at business. I just felt like the label derailed me in a lot of ways. And then actually during the labeling process was also really horrible because they put all of us introverts in a group, like everybody who had similar, you know, characteristics they put in a group. And it's like, oh, great. I get to go sit in a corner with like 8 other introverts and, you know, do what? So that wasn't very fun either. But
Okay.
yeah, I felt like it wasn't an empowering experience at all.
Okay. I'm sorry to hear that. That's a horrible experience. Yeah. I mean, when I go through this, so I teach a principle called 5 voices. And let me clarify that a little bit. And I might have been the person coaching you through that process. An introvert doesn't mean that you sit inside and don't talk to anybody.
Well, we know that now.
Right. So an introvert is simply how you process information in your brain, right? That's how you receive energy, is from the inside. Like you're an inside out type person, right? Extroverts receive their energy from outside forces, right? I am an introvert. Okay. But I can be a social butterfly. I'm the last one to leave a party, you know? It's frankly how I process information and how I receive energy is through internal dialogue and internal contemplation and how I internalize certain information. Okay. The 5 voices is built off of MBTI, the Myers-Briggs formula. The problem with a lot of these personality assessments is the same thing I mentioned that you said, Mark. I said, do you remember yours? You said no. Most people get this cool report. It's like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that nails me. Oh, you know, and then they put it in a drawer and they never look at it again, maybe 5 years later, and then they forget what they are. And even if they remember what they are, say I'm an INFJ, they look at somebody across the table and they go, then I got to remember their formula and their formula and their formula and their formula. And it's 16 personality types. How am I supposed to memorize 16 personality types, what each of the 4 letters mean, and then what that means for me and how I interact with that person? You got to be a personality Yoda to truly understand all of that stuff. So what we've done is we boiled this down to 5 voices, easy enough that a 13-year-old could teach this, hence why I'm teaching it. I'm going to explain these to you, and I want you to think about which one kind of relates to you. Okay. I'm going to give you a brief overview of each one of these. And we go from the quietest voice to the loudest voice. And the quietest one we start with is the nurturer. The nurturer is your people person. They have an innate understanding of how something is going to affect everyone around them. They tend to put themselves last. Everybody else is first. It's always people before profit. They are the relational oil in every relationships. They don't like conflict. I don't want to ruffle feathers. They also tend to not speak up because they don't want to offend other people or ruffle feathers. And they also kind of diminish their contribution. They don't value their own contribution enough. They kind of say, my ideas are okay. I won't say anything in this next meeting because I'm just going to sit back and let everybody else kind of talk. And so that's why we don't hear from them as much, right? Because they want to just sit back and let everybody else have the show. The nurturers are 43% of the population though. The biggest group, 70% of those 43% are actually women. They're very present oriented as well. So this is where we talk about not leading everybody the same. This is when we are leading a remote team or a team that is not remote or talking with our spouse or whatever, understanding what the other person, what their tendencies are and how they like to be communicated with will go a long way. Because here's something that I'm sure you never heard before, but not everybody thinks like you. Okay. Your brain and your tendencies are yours. And there's a chunk of the population that will be able to relate to you. And another chunk of the population is going to be like, you are crazy. I am never going to think like you. I don't understand your brain. Your brain doesn't work for me. And that's crazy. Right. We call them your nemesis voice. Okay. The creatives are the next voice. They are internal perfectionists. They're out of the box thinkers. They always want to break the mold. They're always trying to think about how to do things differently. They don't follow instructions very well because they're always trying to kind of make it better somehow, some way, and to be creative with how they do that. They can see way off in the future, further off than anybody else can, and be that early warning radar system to say, okay, we need to not do this, everybody, or hey, we need to grab onto this idea. It's coming down the line. We need to get onto this thing. They have a hard time though communicating effectively because they have so much going on in their brain. They're always like, oh, there's a good idea. There's a good idea. Oh, there's a good idea. And there's so much going on up here that they're internalizing everything. Okay. And when they try to express it, when they try to actually verbalize it, it doesn't come out very clearly. My wife looks at me and she goes, Scott, I have no idea what you just said. And I'm like, hold on. Okay, let me back up. Because my mouth is just going, right? Because it's all of this just exploding out of my mouth. And so with a creative, the way you lead a creative is you're patient with them. They're not going to communicate super effective at first. Ask questions, okay? Dig the gold out. There's gold in there. You just got to dig it out. That's 9%, and they're very future oriented. Guardians are your process people. They are your systems, your plans, I'm not doing anything without a schedule. It's how are we going to do that on time and on budget? They're super reliable. I could give a guardian any task and I don't have to ask them about it again. I know it's going to get done. They have a tendency though to drill you with a million questions and to be very present oriented and safeguarded. They're the ones who seem to pour cold water all over everybody's ideas, being the naysayers of why we can't do something because we don't have enough time or enough budget or enough resources. It's not that they're being negative. It's that they are concerned with understanding what we have and what we can do with what we have. They're 30% of the population. Now, somebody do some math for me. 43% plus 9% plus 30%. Somebody do some
82%.
math. What's that?
82%.
Boom, 82%. 8 out of 10 people in our population, out of hundreds of thousands of people that have taken Myers-Briggs, probably millions, 8 out of 10 of them feel undervalued, not heard, and not understood. Because The other two voices are the loudest and the most forceful in how they speak. They're the ones that take up all the oxygen in the room. They're the ones that think they have the most brilliant ideas, and they drop the knowledge and they leave. And these three are like, well, the nurturer is like, well, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to ruffle feathers. The creative's still thinking about their ideas, so they haven't said anything yet, and they want it to be perfect. The guardian's just sitting there making calculations and trying to like find their way in, and they don't feel heard. And this is something that's really important for you as leaders to understand, is that we've got to give everybody a voice at the table, because when we do, we get brilliance. Okay, we get collaboration, we get people that are intuitive with other people, we get future ideas, we get understanding of resources, we get collaboration, and we get strategy. They're all very important to have. Your connectors, they're your social butterflies. They are your like people. They're your I got a guy person. Okay, they're like, if you have a problem, they go, ooh, I got a guy. Like they pick up their phone and they're like, I'm going to send you this person. You need to talk to this person, right? They're always trying to make sure that you win through a connection or some kind of advice or something that they've given you as a tool to reach your goal. And that gives them so much energy, is to say, I did that. Y'all know that, right? Y'all know that I did that. That is them. It's not an egotistical thing. It's the thing that drives them and gives them energy, is to say that they were able to provide a resource or a guide that helps somebody else. Now, here's the thing with connectors. They take everything personal. If they've told you about an amazing Chinese restaurant down the street, that's so amazing, and you go to that Chinese restaurant and come back to them and say, yeah, I don't know, like it was all right. They'll go, maybe you just had a bad night. Maybe it was a different chef, right? They start getting defensive and making up excuses for why you think their idea probably wasn't as good as it should have been. Or they do this. They just go in the corner and cry about how nobody appreciates them or their ideas. Okay. They can be passive aggressive. They want everybody to like them. And everybody does like connectors at first, but they tend to overpromise and underdeliver because they take on so much. They want to make everybody happy and connect everybody to their dreams. And they're just, they sell beautiful ideas and beautiful vision, but tend to overwhelm themselves and not deliver. So pioneers are last. They're the loudest and most forceful in how they speak. They're brilliant military-like thinkers that can align systems and people and plans. They go to bed thinking about problems. They wake up thinking about problems, and they are thinking about things for months. And they're very competent in their role. That's why they come into meetings, don't really care about what anybody else has to say, because they're so smart and because they're so competent. They drop the mic. They say, this is the plan. This is the problem. This is what we're doing. This is now everybody get to work, and they leave. And everybody's kind of like, yeah, but I had something to say. Like, did anybody want to hear my idea? Or maybe if they do speak up, the pioneer just shuts them down because they say, listen, I've thought about this for 3 months already. I don't need you to help me out with this idea. Like, I'm good. Like, I just need you to do it. Just do what I've asked you to do. Okay. So they can come off as arrogant, or they can come off as a bit of a jerk, or kind of not in touch with other people's feelings. The thing with the pioneer is, when you have a healthy pioneer, you have brilliance and vision and strategy to lead your team. Corporate America is led by pioneers and connectors because we want winners. Pioneers are win at all costs. Okay. They're there to win the war, not the battle. They understand there's going to be casualties, and that's just part of doing business. Okay. They understand that people are going to get their feelings hurt. People are going to get trampled. People are going to get fired, and people aren't going to like me, but that's okay, because I'm helping us win the war. And that's just part of doing business. So you can tell here the nemesis voices a little bit, right? Nurturers, super people oriented, do not get along well with pioneers. there's a natural conflict there. Guardians, very process, very system oriented, don't like a lot of the dream fluffy talk, have a very hard time with connectors, right? The people that can't deliver all the time when they say they are going to, or tend to overpromise, or get really fluffy and don't have a lot of plans, don't get into details. They don't like details. Connectors, creatives, they're not detail people. Guardians are detail people. So there's some conflict there too, as well, right? So this is kind of what I want you to think about. When you're leading people and teams, first, understand yourself. Understand who you are and your communication style, and then that of the person you're communicating with. If I am a creative and I'm speaking to a guardian, my project manager, and I'm just throwing out ideas, I need to understand that they're going to need some detail from me. And as much as I hate that part of the job, I need to what we call it building a bridge. I need to build a bridge for that person. They're on one side, I'm on the other side. I'm speaking all this cool vision, all these great ideas, and they're over here going, yeah, I'm not going over there. I need you to build me a bridge. Tell me how we're going to do that. And I say, okay, well, let's think this through, all right, and building that bridge. That's a tip for how do you lead certain voices at certain times. So I hope that gives you some insight into the 5 voices. It's a very simple system. It's supposed to be scalable. There's a free assessment you can take online. It takes about 15 minutes if you want to do that. And I can give you guys access to that assessment as well. It's a free resource for all your leadership development, free forever. And you can get access to that. I'll go ahead and put that in the chat for you.
Is that the link to the?
Is it what? Sorry.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's the link to the survey.
Yep, that'll link to the. So Giant will ask you to sign up for a free account. Once you sign up for that account, again, it's free forever. No credit cards required. There's no hook, no gag, nothing. I'll even opt you out of their email sequence, so you don't even have to worry about that. But if you want to take that, if you're interested in your voice order, go ahead and take that. I'd be interested if you want to shoot it back to me and say, hey, Scott, this is what I came up with. What do you think about this? I can give you some more resources that are all free that can give you some more insights into your personality and voice order and communication style. Okay.
Thank you.
So which one do you resonate with? Talk to me. Any of these resonate with you?
Yeah, about 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
I actually
Okay.
find elements of all 5 in what I do.
Let me clarify then. We are all 5 of these. Okay. We are all 5 of them. Though what we say is that we have a natural tendency though to be the top 2 are our natural tendencies. So I'm a creative connector. We always say our first 2 voices. And then it goes from our conscious competence, which is the thing we know we're good at, all the way down to our unconscious incompetence. Like we know that we are, or the conscious incompetence, we know that we're not good at that thing. It's all a scale, but we're all elements of all of these. We can access them at certain times. It's just easier to access certain voices for us. So which one do you kind of just resonate with right off the top of your bat? You're like, that's me. I got elements of all this other stuff, but yeah, that's who I tend to resonate with.
Between the guardian and the connector, I think, for me.
Really? What about the guardian connected with you the most?
Well, let's see.
Detail-oriented.
Over promises and under delivers, right? So
Well, the connector, yeah, that's connector voice, right?
so I don't know if I do that.
Okay.
I don't know. I think I'm going to have to take the test.
Okay, do that. Take it. See what happens.
Yeah.
Now let me put this caveat in there too. I would encourage you to take it as your 20-year-old self. Okay. Because we're built off of 3 different things: nature, nurture, and choice. Nature is how we're born. It's just our DNA. It's what makes us up. Nurture is how we're raised. Our parents instilled certain principles in us, our environment, and then the choices we make, right? So Mark, being in the military, that choice is going to shape the way he communicates probably after. I would be willing to bet, Mark, that you didn't communicate the same before the military as you do after the military. There's probably some differences there. Am I right or wrong in that?
No, that's one of the reasons they had us take a lot of those different, especially Myers-Briggs, was more to help us identify which one of those we needed to use in particular situations.
Okay.
Because if you're part of a team on an admiral staff, you're probably more required of being a nurturer and creative.
Mm-hmm.
If you are the admiral, you're probably supposed to be more the pioneer and the connector. So, that again, that's just kind of one of the things that they emphasized in that. Hey, if you're going to be a true leader, you need to know all of these. And they used a little different terminology at the time, but
Sure.
basically that's. If you're going to lead effectively, you need to be able to understand and morph with each one of them, depending upon who and what situation you're leading.
Yep. You got it. Becky, any of these resonate with you?
I think I would probably tend to be a creative nurturer.
Mm-hmm.
I have been in situations where I feel like I'm the forward thinker, that I'm coming up with campaign ideas that other people will grasp onto and take forward.
Mm-hmm.
But I tend to think of people over profit, which is probably why I'm not making a lot of money.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. There are going to be certain tendencies that are going to help our businesses and be a hard time, cause us a hard time for our businesses, right? My second voice connector, I am a little bit of a feeler, right? I do want people to like me, and I will give people a little bit of a pass at times, and I'll be like, oh, that's fine. Yeah, that payment's 45 past due. Like, you'll get it to me, I'm sure, right? Like, it's all good. I kind of give people a little bit too much. I don't challenge enough. Healthy challenge is what we need to be more intentional about as feelers, right? Nurturers, connectors, creative.
I was a pretty quiet child, but not necessarily when I was around the other kids.
Mm-hmm.
And and as I've gotten older, I've become more assertive. And, I know when I'm in a situation where I absolutely have to speak up, and I do.
Right.
And I've also, because I've been self-employed my whole life, or supported by somebody else, but always involved doing work with nonprofits. So I have a lot of experience working within organizational structures, which is always challenging. And because there's so many different personalities that I want to include everybody, that's the nurturing part.
Yep, exactly. So what I want you to think about when working with organizations, working with teams, working with other individuals is, how does that other person view me, first of all? And then how can I lead that other person the way they need to be led? I don't want you to think of the golden rule. Okay. The golden rule is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Mm-hmm. The platinum rule surpasses that. The platinum rule is do unto others as they would have done to themselves.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Lead others how they need to be led, not how you think they need to be led, not how you want to be led. Lead them how they need to be led. Okay. Mm-hmm. So let's get into principle number 3, the power of the medium, choosing the right medium for the right conversation. This is a big problem. It's gotten a little bit better in some ways, shape, or form, and sometimes it's gotten a little bit worse. So when we need to bring effective challenge, okay, this is what we're specifically talking about, is bringing challenge to somebody. Challenge is healthy challenge, is accountability, is, hey, there's a little bit of a problem. I need to talk to you about this. We need to resolve this issue quickly. Let's figure this out. Hey, you've been late 3 times on the job. we need to. Social media, passive aggressive social media comments are the least effective. Okay. I'll just put that out there. I don't think anybody's surprised by that. The least effective way to bring challenge to somebody is through a social media post. Not effective. Okay. Text messaging, 10%. Text messaging is about 10% effective. Not super effective. Okay. How many of us have received a text message that was completely misconstrued, or maybe even sent one, and they're like, whoa, I didn't mean that. Or, oh, why are they so miffed? And then you call them like, oh, I wasn't miffed at all. Like, what are you talking about? And it's like, oh, you sounded that way in your text. It's like, I didn't sound anyway in my text. You can't hear me in my text. Right. But that's a problem with text messaging, is that we don't hear voice fluctuation. Same with email. How many of us have said, okay, that really bothered me. I'm going to take about 2 days and I'm going to write this email. I'm just going to write it, and it'll give me time to process. And it'll give me, I won't be so instinctual, right? And just unleash all rage on this person. I'm going to just write it in a long email. The problem with email is that it's only a one-way conversation. The person has no chance, right, to interject during that conversation. It's a lot of you processing, and it's a lot of energy put into that. And sometimes that can be a lot of wasted energy that you're putting into that. Phone calls are only about 35% effective as far as bringing challenge. They're better, and they're almost all we have right now besides video, but still not super effective. We can't see body language. Body language communicates so much. Video chat is where that comes in at 70%. In person is the best at 95%. Obviously, sitting down with somebody, being able to communicate with them. The thing with in-person video and even phone calls above the others is that a human is on the other side. Okay. I think the problem with a lot of the generations now is, whether I'm breaking up with somebody over social or via text, is that they feel like they can do anything they want because I'm just doing it to a device. I'm not doing it to a human. So that makes it easier for me, right? That makes it me, oh, I'm not hurting that person. I'm writing this in an email, or I'm writing this in a text message, so I can say anything I want. When we start to put a human behind the communication, then we start to sympathize, empathize, and start to really structure a narrative that is helpful and uplifting, so that we can be productive and not destructive. Make sense?
Yeah.
All right. Let's keep going here. Let's get to the last one, learning to manage your time. This is one of my favorite tools, and I hope that you'll be able to take this with you as we go. This is called the 5 gears. And this is something that's very applicable to a lot of us in different ways. Different voices, right? Nurturers, creatives, guardians, connectors, and pioneers are going to be better at some of these gears than others. Now I'm going to go through each one of the gears, and I want you to think about these and the way you spend your time. So 5th gear is focus mode. Hunkered down, doors closed, messages are turned off, phone is silenced. I'm tasked, I'm fully focused, and I'm moving. Don't bother me. Okay. That is me getting ready for a presentation. I've got 2 hours. I got to block it out on my schedule, and nobody can bother me. My wife can't bother me. Kids can't bother me. Workmates can't bother me. Like, it's shut down. Okay. I've got to get this thing done. We go down into 4th gear, which is multitasking mode. Doors may be cracked. I've got email going, text message going. I am working on a document. Maybe I'm reading an article. Like, I'm multitasking, I'm working hard. And I feel like us entrepreneurs are doing this a lot. Okay. We're multitasking all the time because we're wearing so many hats and doing so many things that this is where we find ourselves most of the time. Social mode is 3rd gear. This is water cooler talk. This is being present with people. This is the chat before a meeting when we're on Zoom, the first 5 to 10 minutes of, hey, how was your weekend? Hey, did you see the game last weekend? Hey, how's your vacation? It's just kind of that water cooler connection talk that I think a lot of people have missed if you worked in a physical environment. Connectors and nurturers really missed the water cooler talk. Pioneers, guardians, probably could care less about the water cooler talk. They think it's a waste of time. Can't we just get on with this and move? Why are we talking about last weekend? Nobody cares about last weekend. But that's where you got to understand that some people need that. So that's water cooler talk, social mode. Second gear is connect mode. And this is when you're really present with your family and friends. This is when you're watching a movie at night with your family and you kind of pick up your phone and you start texting, you're checking email or you're doing something, right? And your spouse looks over at you with like dagger eyes. It's like, can you like put your phone down for a minute and just like be here? You know, I know nobody in here is ever guilty of that. But that is the time that we need to set everything down and just be there, connect, go to dinner with your spouse, go to dinner with a friend, and just be there. Have a good conversation with your employees, with your team members, contractors. It's a time to just connect and just, maybe you're not talking about work. Maybe you are talking about work, and maybe it's a 30-minute, 45-minute conversation about what's going on. This is very difficult for some individuals. They cannot stand to sit there for an hour and talk to you about your problems and try to resolve all these things because I have work to do. I've got things to do. I don't have time to mess with you. Listen, I've got an answer. I can just fix this for you right now. Will you just listen? Will you just stop talking and listen so I can fix your problem? There's a lot of that goes around. But sometimes people need that connect mode. First gear is recharge. Personal recharge. This is me riding my bike. This is me going out for a walk. This is me reading a book. This is me taking a nap. This is me maybe going out and talking to my neighbor. That's how I recharge. Okay. Connectors recharge through conversations, right? Small talk with other people, hanging out, connecting. And that is something that's really important for them. Response mode is when I've messed up and I got to back up. Maybe I have checked my phone while I'm watching that movie with my family. And my kids are like, hey, dad, gear two. And I'm like, oh, sorry about that. Back up, reverse, right? So I can correct myself. It's really important for us to create boundaries when we are leaders, when we are leading remote teams, to understand what different people need at different times. When we get on that Zoom call and we are starting a meeting with our team, there are individuals that will thrive and grow if we give them some social time, 5 minutes of that social time at the beginning of the meeting, 10 minutes to just connect. Okay. Then we got to get into task mode. So the guardians feel like things are getting done and we're accomplishing things. But really what I want you to take away from this is gear 5 and gear 2. Gear 5 is very, very important. I don't think enough entrepreneurs get gear 5 time, enough gear 5 time to really sit down and get something done. I would encourage you to take a sticky note, piece of paper, and write a big 5 on it and put it outside your door. Okay. Most of us are working from home. Put it outside your door. Well, I guess all of you are with the home business. It's kind of in the name, right? Put it outside your door, and the whole family kind of knows that, oh, dad's in gear 5 time. I'm going to wait until he, is ready. It's better than my kids running in to show me their Lego creation and me going, no, leave. I can't do that right now. I'm busy, right? And shutting them down. Instead, it's a way to say, oh, dad's busy. It's a way to communicate effectively with somebody else that I am hunkered down and I need my space. That's perfectly acceptable. It's in how you communicate that. With your teams, it's blocking off calendar, time blocking, right? I'm not available from 10 to 12, everybody. If you need me, call my wife or something, right? Like I'm not around. So it's really important, that gear 5. And gear 2, be intentional about your gear 2 time with your family, your friends, loved ones, whoever it is. Be intentional with getting that gear 2 time and making sure that you do put things away, because we are so doing everything all the time. We are never turned off. We're 24/7, go, that we need that time to reconnect with those around us for our mental health, our spiritual health, and our social health. So make sure you get that time in there as well. I'm going to skip the poll for the sake of time. I kind of want you to think about, this is the way these elements fit into this flywheel we talked about earlier, right? Inhibition, prohibition, and 5 voices are kind of communication relationship aspects of who we are and what we do. Power of the medium, how we communicate. The right medium at the right time can build hurt relationships and also create alignment more within what our organizations. And then 5 gears is really going to help us with execution and capacity, making sure that we're blocking out time, making sure that we are available to get the things done that we need to get done and executing the right things. So that's how all that fits in. Again, free resource for you is going to be Giant. Again, it's free forever. Get on there, take the assessment. You'll get your assessment results here. There are 100+ hours of leadership, personal development training on this platform, high quality video work that's done by the people at Giant. And I'm a Giant consultant. If you have any questions or problems with this platform, let me know. If you want to analyze teams, there's another function, a paid function of Giant that I can talk to you about if you're interested in that. That is very, very, very powerful. So this is a free resource for you. This is the problem, right? Most leadership programs are complicated, expensive, and they're too rigid. They're not flexible. It's just this way. This is how you do it. What I want to talk about more is how do we create something that's simple, cost-effective, and flexible? So one of my programs I do is called Sherpa Training, where we have a small group of masterminds, of leaders of organizations or groups or businesses, and we meet every 2 weeks and we go through tools like I've just walked you through. All 4 of these are 4 tools that we actually go through in Sherpa Training. 5 voices we actually spent almost 2 months working through, and developing ourselves and developing us as leaders and developing the people around us. And these are some of the benefits. You get systematic proven processes. You can learn to multiply your leadership to other people and your health to other people around you. And it's real world sessions, right? So what I want to do for everybody here is, and this is just a free offer for you, that if you take the 5 voices assessment and you want kind of a 60-minute in-depth conversation with me, I totally want to offer that to you. No sales pitch. I just want to serve you and add some value to you in your life. If there's a way that I can help you in the future, awesome. If there are referrals and people that you know in your network that could really benefit from some of this, awesome. That's the way I work, is off referrals and just good vibes all the way around. So I want to help you in that way. If you want to take me up on that, it's there for you. So what I want to say, I'll leave you this. How much is your reputation as a leader worth? Think about that. Your reputation, how much is that worth? I would say it's worth a lot. Okay. And that's really your brand. Your personal brand is everything. And everything you do is making a deposit into that brand or withdraw from that brand. And we want to make sure that you're communicating in a way that is always depositing into that brand and causing good impressions. So invest in yourself, invest in your team. And I really appreciate you letting me be here and talk to you guys. So was this helpful? Just add some insights for y'all?
This
Absolutely.
is really neat. Yeah, this is really neat, Scott. You know what I realized? For 32 years, I worked for the same organization, and they never give me any kind of feedback. You know, it's just you do it, and I've worked with a different board pretty much every year for 32 years, and I mean, it's just that's what I've realized from this, is that they don't see any need to evaluate me, and I've never demanded that they do that. So anyway, I'm going to be kind of intrigued with taking that.
Good.
The 5 voices assessment.
5 voices assessment. Good. Yeah, do that.
I wonder
Really
if that's
good.
partly a cultural thing, you know, because you're a woman, you're filling administrative roles. People tend to take, support, like secretarial one of my first experiences that led to my becoming self-employed was doing temp work in a big corporation. It was a defense corporation that my dad worked at. I mean, he was like management level. But I was in the typing pool. Anyway, I didn't like the culture of working in a place like that. And that led me to become self-employed. But I felt like that experience taught me that it's like these women that are doing this background work that never get the credit for what they're doing. They get a paycheck, and that's about it.
And usually that's 70% of what other, what they're worth.
Yeah, that too. That was the other thing. I knew I had super skills, but I knew that the pay grade for those skills was ever going to be at this level, So I just put it out there and was able to get myself double that by being independent.
Cool. Anybody have any questions I can answer for you in regards to any of this?
I think you were very clear.
Good.
Great.
I enjoyed it very much.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, very good, thoughtful.
It's a great presentation, Scott. Obviously, you've had the background and experience with the major companies, so probably a little more polished than most. But
well, and I've been a graphic designer and kind of brand strategist for the past 18 years. So it's hard for me to not to, and my internal perfectionism doesn't let me, be unpolished too much. Right. So.
Well, but all the stuff that you worked in, I mean, I took my undergraduate in business, and, we did case study after case study after case study that companies fail, and the majority of companies all have those same problems, but they don't want to take the time to spend the money to do exactly what you said to do. I
know. It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And that's one thing I having being a small business myself, home-based and working with other small businesses as well. At times it's been very hard to work with small businesses. I've really tried to champion small businesses for many years now, working at the local chamber and speaking and offering services to them and even coaching some of those clients. But we get in the mentality of survival mode, right? We get in this mentality of, I need a quick fix. I need a miracle drug. I need something, a Band-Aid. I just need to patch it just to get through this one little thing. But then then now it's just this little thing. Oh, now it's just this little thing, right? And we find ourselves hunkered down in the details of day-to-day life instead of thinking long-term strategy and investment and who we are in our businesses, because we're always thinking in survival mode and that mentality of scarcity. And when we have that mentality, that scarcity mentality is what's going to hold us back from pushing forward. And I'm speaking to myself. Okay. For 2 to 3 years now, I've had a scarcity mindset, and it's caused my business to tighten up so much. And part of the past 6 months now, I've kind of let loose, right? I'm like, I can't be that anymore. I've got to push forward because this scarcity stuff is holding me back from pushing forward and expanding what I got. I'm just bleeding slowly instead of growing.
Scarcity. What give us an example of the thought.
Well, it was, COVID's here. What are my clients going to do? All new contracts halted. So it was like, I maintained my existing contracts, which was great. And they were amazing. But it was, this is really hard to serve right now. Or most of my contacts were from in-person speaking engagements and networking. And we weren't doing that as much anymore. So it was kind of this inhibition, prohibition mindset. But needless to say, last year I spoke more than I ever have via webinars. It made it a lot easier. And I think it was just, I need to invest and stop pinching every single little penny, because this investment is what's going to help my business grow. Pinching every tiny little penny is not going to help my business grow, right? We got to be mindful and aware of those things, but it's the investment that's going to help us grow. not the holding back and reserving everything. So
I have a question. Are the
Yeah.
two pieces of art on, behind you, are those your graphic works?
these are not. These are from, this is from a Women in Design conference in Minnesota. And this one is from the French paper company. So as a graphic designer, you get a bunch of free stuff from all the paper companies. So they send you cool posters that you can put on your wall. And that's what it did.
Just
So.
curious.
Nah, yeah, I didn't do a ton of poster work. We did some poster work, but I didn't do a ton of poster work as a designer.
Well, this is very cool.
I like the emphasis on the human connection that you bring through in your work.
Good, thank you.
Learning how to meet other people's needs and how in-person contact is really the most valuable. And being present with your family and your friends.
Good.
Well, anybody else have something for Scott? Sheldon, you kind of went out for a little bit. You're back.
He's eating wings.
Yeah.
I'm full now, thank you. Yeah, no, I hit the wrong button and disconnected. But no, I'm doing good. Thank you for that presentation. I saved the test to do later.
Good, good. Well, Mark, you have my contact information. You can send that to everybody. And again, if y'all want to get in touch with me, just shoot me a quick email and we'll schedule something. But I hope this was helpful to everybody. I hope you can take at least one of these principles with you and remember that and be more intentional about your communication going forward.
Thank you very much.
And we'll leave your information up on the website as far as our past presentations. And I'll talk to you a little bit about, we recorded the session tonight too. So
good.
I'll contact you afterwards about that.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you, everybody.
All right,
Anybody
thank
else?
Great job. Beautiful slides.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Scott. Unless anybody else has anything else, we'll go ahead and conclude our business meeting for this evening.
All right.
Thanks
you.
a lot,
Right on.
Scott.
Thanks,
And
everybody.
have a great weekend.
Take care. Thanks,
Good luck
Scott.
out there. See ya.
Good job.
That it was 11 o'clock his time.
Yeah, I wouldn't realize it was across the country until he told us. I